An extremely powerful feature for an Excel pivot table is the drill down facility. Now this will work if you use recommended pivots or if you've built the pivot table yourself. So let's take our Sales Inc. 2013 data again. We click into the data and we'll have one of the recommended pivot tables, please. Let's go with the sales by month again, but we'll make a couple of amendments. First of those is to move the month name into the columns and then bring down the item name into the row. Now we have a crisscross of where items have been sold by different months. So the values are spread about the place because some months we didn't sell some of the items. Now, if at any point you find a number, this one here, for example, 2118, the question find China mug with horse theme print in March, and you're not quite sure that you trust the number 2118, where's that been derived from? If you ever want to see a breakdown or analysis of how Excel has got to that value, simply double click it. And what it will do is it will make an extraction from the data that the pivot table is based on and show you the rows, so the whole rows, not just the numbers that it's adding up to get the number, that it has used to give you those values. So here I've double clicked 2118. It then pulls out the data. Let's just widen those columns, which is an extraction from the data in the sales data sheet anyway, and says those three values there, total price will add up to 2118, which I can see in the status bar. They're all the same mug and they're all in March. So I can then start to trust the data. It always pulls this data out into a blank sheet. So that's now in sheet 4. And I can do that with any numbers. I could do it with any of the month numbers or even any of the total numbers. What about this one here? 17549. Done horse mug coaster set. That's the grand total. I'm not really sure how it's got that. Double click. Extracts the data. If it auto fit the columns as well, that would make life a lot easier. And if we highlight the total prices, we can see that they add up to 17549. They are all the same mug. They're for different months because we went for the grand total column and double click the value. So that will work on any value inside the pivot table, regardless of whether you built it with the recommended option or whether you built it yourself. All of these numbers have numbers behind them, which all came from here. It's only using your data. Now, if you're supplying this pivot table to third party or someone else even within the same organization, and you don't want them to be double clicking to drilling down, then you can actually turn that off as an option in the pivot table by going to the pivot table options. So you need to be in the pivot table so that the pivot table tools toolbar is available. Over in the options here on the left hand side, and then options, data, and here where it says enable show details, we take that tick out so that the drill down doesn't work effectively. And then we say OK. And now when you try to double click a number, you'll get a little error message. Cannot change this part of a pivot table report. So you've effectively disabled that drill down capability. Now, obviously, anybody who knows about pivot tables knows they can go back in and turn that option on. They would need to know that. We do, so we can turn it back on and we can drill back down. So that's drilling down into the data behind a pivot table. Now, if that pivot table is connected to an external data source, you won't see that data source as a separate tab here. But as long as drill down is enabled, when you drill down, it will still pull through an extraction of the data that Excel has used to create that number. So you will still get this information here, even if you cannot see the whole data. So a little trick would be to go to the very last bottom right hand corner, so the grand total number, which might be a way down this one, there it is. Double click that, and effectively you're then extracting all the data, because that's how it gets the grand total. It uses all the data. More of a little trick than anything, because if it's in Excel, you already have that data here anyway, but externally you wouldn't. So that's drill down, capability that you can turn on or turn off. By default it's on, and it allows you to effectively see how the calculations have taken place. Quite useful if you've got a number that you're not quite trusting and thinking, well, where's that number come from? Double click and Excel will show you where it's got the number from.